Just like anybody, of course, I've been a witness to losing people in my life and everything, and I always think about my own children when I hear about young people being shot down, regardless of their flesh or anything. And me, I'm always looking towards alignment and understanding of the situation before I do anything rash. But I already know behind my child, I definitely have to sit down for a couple of years. I'm willing to do life behind mine, but that's beside the point. These situations is not easy for me because I love the youth and everything. I know that they are future and stuff, but I already know that you don't understand nothing about a seed being planted until it breaks ground. And the seeds have already planted of wickedness without this system that we've been dealing with throughout time. We've already gathered an understanding of why things are messed up like they are. But here's the point. People ask me, why don't I protest or go out there and run my mouth? Because I already know it, that all this talking, like as far as telling the enemy and announcing, to me that's losing in itself. So I'm not gonna announce to the enemy anything as far as nothing like that, but I'm always give wisdom to the collective, and this is what I'll say. With primates you got troops, with wolves you got packs, then you have hives, swarms, and herds. In this system that we have now, most of the collective people that live an everyday life to the calendar, they have a herd mind. Before we was colonized, I think we were more like packs, wolf packs. Because, wolves, they do everything collectively. They do things basically in a matriarch system, but it's everybody pitching in. But when you're dealing with herds, herd minds can be led to death. They can be, like most herds are like animal farms led to the slaughter. Troops and stuff like that and packs. And I respect the hive mind, because one thing about the ants that I've noticed in their mounds, in their colonies, that behind the queen, behind the main important force, no matter where you go on an ant mound, if you touch any part of it, all of them are coming. There's nobody can mess with the army ants in the wilderness because of their unity. So therefore I know it exists, and I know it's possible, because as small as the ants are, can't nobody in the wilderness deal with them. And that says a lot about them. But the thing about the hive mind and a lot of our governments that are dictating everything we do, they're usually hive, because when you destroy the leader in the ant colony, of course it'd be the queen. The whole colony will be deceased unless they get something replaced. But the reason why I don't want to participate and deal with a lot of shit is not because I don't have the capabilities. It's just that I know that nobody's going to avenge my death, so I'm not going to avenge theirs. So I stick to my immediate family and my loved ones, because I'm not finna go on a wild goose chase or a false run and get killed behind some sellouts and some Judas people, some people that's gonna betray you, because that's in every organization. Usually the ones that destroy you are the people that you love, or you so-called love, and that's right there in the back. So I've seen that many times over and over. And I can tell you this, honesty and trust with your enemy is genocide anyway. So I stopped letting television and the different propagandas that they strategically put on TV to, ignite this and get everybody riled up. Because at the same time, I know there's a lot of crisis actors And you know, if you can't cut the strings from the puppet master, man, you don't know what's real and what's not real. Now, my condolences, of course, goes out to all the fallen soldiers. You know, or you know, as most of the ignorant people like to say, they were criminals, and you know that's another word for them trying to say other things. But we already see all that game. And, you know, karma is with Libras like myself, because I carry justice with me. So, you know, my whole understanding of it is that everybody has their perspective or their perception of what happened. But we already know it don't take a rocket scientist to see that it's injustice at all times. So I'm not here to you know, what's right and wrong. Time and time again, we see how their so-called justice of the United Snakes feel about us. Us, when I say us, I'm talking about nobody would exist without us. That us I'm talking about. The us that nothing could have been without us. The inventions, everything, the prerequisite of everything. That us is who I'm talking about. And then it's obvious who the enemy is. We've seen the files and all of the different other proofs that show that when it comes to it, nobody cares about what's fair and what nobody's went through. So why argue? Why march? Why beg and plead? I mean, it ain't no we shall overcome. None of that. Because it goes back to the troops, the packs, the hives, and the herds. You in the herd that gets led to the slaughterhouse? Are you a part of the hornet's nest? That's what I'm a part of. You come anywhere in my area, you throw a rock at my nest, and you know, we're gonna come out, you know, like we supposed to as a swarm. So if you're not on that level, you know, that's the only thing I understand when it comes to something that come from out of me, my flesh of my flesh, blood of my blood. So that's my answer, you know, how I feel about that. I'm not finna ride with nobody that's not gonna ride for me. And you know, unfortunately, it's like that. We have to be self-sufficient, you know. So I'm not, you know, I don't team up. You know, it's a mistake to team up with anybody, you know, because evil transcends the flesh. So, you know, you can't just say one group of people is evil, because everybody I've been around on both sides of my race are up to their necks in wickedness. Terrible. You know, as a matter of fact, I could name 10 people that I know that are truly righteous. You know, I know the truth is ugly, but in my personal life, I could probably just name, and it'd be hard, 10 people. So imagine if there was a, you know, an audit on the city, you know, like the angels came before and they said, you know, if we could at least find 20 people, you know, we'll spare the city, man. Do you think that your city that you live in, do you think South Carolina or any of these cities, LA, Chicago, Houston, you know, any of them, New Orleans, you think you could find at least 10 good people? I'm just talking about really seriously, man. We couldn't, man. So, you know, honesty and trust with the enemy is genocide. So in order to stay out their program, you got to think outside their program, man. The only solution that I could give to it is cut off that damn TV, that program, that television program, because they're going to tell you anything. They're going to have Asians trying to kill us. They're going to have us trying to kill everybody else, and then the only person that's going to be living is the puppet masters. That's your billionaires that want to stop the sun. You know, that's everybody that was in them files that nobody did nothing to. Committed all kind of murders and 8 children. Them are the people that's running all this. So nah, man, you know, you got to really be a fool if you want to go out there and march and burn up your own city behind some shit that's orchestrated. You know, and again, man, you know, time repeats itself, man, but has anybody else also paid attention to striking resemblance between Trayvon Martin and the young brother Cyrus? I mean, it's almost uncanny, man. They look like twins. So pay attention to things like that, because there's no such thing as a coincidence, man. And that's just real talk. So yeah, man, where do I stand? I love those who love me. And I'm going to use my discernment to know if you bullshit. So, you know, that's just how that go, man. I'm not finna play with anybody to play with anybody I love. And that's naturally. You don't never see animals. I just told you the ants. You can't go to a hornet's nest. You can't go to a beehive and play. You can't go in the woods and play. So, you know, those are the ways, man. Are you a part of the herd, the hive, or the wolf pack? Ancient Nine Mystery School, St. Germain.